Malaysia's manufacturing industry has been staging profound growth over the past few years. We have seen news reports saying that Malaysia's semiconductor industry has been emerging as a winner in the US-China chip war, as foreign investors from all around the world, including China, have been pouring billions into Malaysia. Here's a graph with data that we collected from the Malaysian Investment Development Authority on the foreign investments into Penang. As you can see from the graph, from 2013 to 2020, investments weren't really that big. Sure, they were significant enough to push Malaysia's manufacturing industry forward, but it wasn't until 2021 and 2023 that they really saw huge foreign investments into Penang. In 2021 alone, foreign direct investments amounted to over 74.44 billion Malaysian ringgit, which is approximately 17 billion US dollars. That is no small figure, especially since it's just in one Malaysian state, Penang. When we compare Penang to the rest of other major states in Malaysia, we get to see this. The graph is based on the proportion of approved investments by states, as published by the Malaysian Investment Development Authority for the year 2023. And as you can see, Penang has become the largest place to invest in Malaysia, with over 71.9 billion ringgit in approved investments. Why these all matter is simply because Penang has become the face of Malaysia's semiconductor ambitions. It is where Malaysia has become a winner in the US-China chip war. But most of you may not know what Penang really is. In Malaysia, the state is famous for being highly developed and highly competitive in the technological world. According to the IEEE, Penang is home to hundreds of multinational corporations, specifically more than 350 MNCs. To top it off, the state houses 3 of the global top 10 semiconductor leaders by total sales, and 6 of the global top 30 medical devices companies by total sales. Finally, the state accounts for over 5% of global semiconductor sales, which makes the state a key player in the entire semiconductor industry. The result of being a global semiconductor hub is then reflected on the state's international trade with the rest of the world. As the state is home to some of the manufacturing facilities of multinational corporations, whatever it produces there is then exported to countries like China and the United States. To understand just how big and important it is to the world and Malaysia, let's look up the external trade of Penang. Here's a graph on the external trade of Malaysia by state for 2024, as published by the Department of Statistics Malaysia. As you can clearly see, Penang, or also locally known as Pulau Pinang, is responsible for 31.2% of Malaysia's exports. And what's much more interesting about this data is that a lot of Penang's exports is made up of electronics, which in 2024 accounts for 72% of their total exports. This is then exported to the United States, followed by China and Hong Kong. This is why foreign investors have been coming into Penang due to its neutrality in the US-China chip war. As the US tightens restrictions on Chinese semiconductor technologies, many Chinese companies are moving operations to Penang to avoid trade barriers and maintain access to global markets. This shift is also a direct result of the China Plus One strategy, where companies diversify their supply chains to mitigate risks associated with over-reliance on a single country. So, who are these Chinese companies that are investing in Malaysia to avoid the restrictions? Well, these companies does not state specifically that they are there to avoid restrictions, but some of the most significant ones that were reported in the news include the likes of China Wafer Level CSP, Ningbo SJ Electronics, and Wuxi AMTE Inc., which recently announced a combined $100 million investment in Penang. Beyond Chinese investments, there are also significant American and Western investors that are helping push Malaysia's semiconductor industry to the next level. These investors are amongst the largest and most well-known manufacturing of semiconductor companies out there. Intel, for instance, which is a widely known semiconductor company, is investing $7 billion in advanced packaging technology into Penang, which will position Malaysia as a top semiconductor manufacturing nation. Similarly, Infineon is committing $5.4 billion over 5 years to build the world's largest silicon carbide chip production site, primarily serving the electric vehicle market. The investment will be located in Kulim, which borders Penang. These investments highlight Malaysia's pivotal position in the semiconductor value chain. It is, however, a good reminder that while Penang is a strategic destination for many semiconductor manufacturing companies, they are not the only state that is winning in Malaysia. For instance, it is well known that in Kuala Lumpur, which is Malaysia's capital, is home to some other big semiconductor companies like Texas Instruments. Then in Malacca, the state is home to companies like Infineon, as well as Texas Instruments, and in Negeri Sembilan, which lies on the western coast of Peninsular Malaysia, houses companies like Onsemi and Nexperia. And Selangor, which surrounds the federal territories of Kuala Lumpur, houses companies like IBM, Amkor Technology, Western Digital, and so on. A lot of other states in Malaysia are also home to big multinational corporations. While not all are semiconductor companies, they are still involved in the chip industry. The growth of these companies in Malaysia is not entirely new. The semiconductor industry in Penang stretches way back decades ago. Here's a graph on Malaysia's manufactured exports by category as a percentage of the total exports as compiled by the MIDF group. As you can see, semiconductors were already substantial economic drivers back in 2000, taking over 19.1% of the total manufactured exports of Malaysia. But more than 2 decades later, they have captured a larger share of the total manufactured exports by 2023, which is now at 27.8%. This semiconductor industry has then become a key economic driver of Malaysia's future. This might finally enable Malaysia to become a high-income nation, finally jumping out of its infamous middle-income trap. But while the semiconductor industry in Penang has played a key role in Malaysia's overall economy, it is a good reminder that Malaysia's future isn't just in the hands of this state and this industry. It's more than that. The entire manufacturing industry of Malaysia has been on the rise, and that includes sectors beyond semiconductor. And these are key industries such as automotive, aerospace, renewable energy, medical technology, and so on. Here's a graph on the largest foreign investments brought into Malaysia's manufacturing industry by category, as published by the Malaysian Investment Development Authority for 2023. As you can see, electrical and electronics received the bulk of the investments of over 85.4 billion ringgit. There are also investments made into sectors like chemicals and chemical products at 8.9 billion ringgit, non-metallic mineral products at 8.8 billion ringgit, and plastic products at 4.1 billion ringgit. The electrical and electronics sector comprises about 7% of Malaysia's GDP, which is approximately $28 billion. But if we take a look at the value added of the entire manufacturing industry, we get to see this. Here's a graph with data that we collected from the World Bank, which, as you can already see, shows the growth of the value added of Malaysia's manufacturing industry. In the latest year available, the value added is now over $92 billion, which is 23% of Malaysia's gross domestic product, GDP. Finally, the most important piece as to how Malaysia's semiconductor industry and manufacturing industry will win in the future is because of a plan called New Industrial Master Plan 2030. This is an industrial policy launched by current Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, which aims to transform Malaysia's industrial sector by 2030. Their goals are to increase high-tech manufacturing as a share of GDP to double from where it is in 2021 at 8.1% to over 15% of GDP which would align Malaysia to countries like South Korea. They also plan to increase the median salary from a baseline in 2021 of 1,976 ringgit to 4,510 ringgit, and even plan to increase the country's global market share in high-tech manufactured exports from 3% in 2021 to over 6% by 2030. But of course, it is a good reminder that this is still a plan. Malaysia still has a lot of challenges ahead of it. One problem that we see is still low gross capital formation. Here's a graph on the gross capital formation as a percentage of GDP in Malaysia as compared to South Korea, as published by the World Bank. As you can see, gross capital formation is still lower by quite a bit as compared to South Korea. In 2023, the latest year available, Malaysia's gross capital formation is just at 23%. Whereas South Korea's is over 32%. The difference is even starker when we compare the current dollars. Here, as you can see in the graph, South Korea's gross capital formation in current US dollars, as published by the World Bank, surpasses that of Malaysia. But of course, the better measurement to use is a percentage of GDP. But this still shows just how focused South Korea is investing in its gross capital formation. But then again, what is gross capital formation to begin with? Well, it is the measure of the total value of investments made in fixed assets within an economy over a specific period. These assets include infrastructure, machinery, equipment, and buildings, which are essential for boosting productivity and supporting long-term economic growth. Gross capital formation is a critical indicator of how much a country is investing in its future capacity to produce goods and services. Finally, another big problem about Malaysia's manufacturing industry is their graduates. There have been several reports out there that indicate how Malaysia is lacking electrical and electronic graduates per year, with one source saying that Malaysian universities are only expected to produce nearly 35,000 graduate engineers, which is a big shortfall of a goal for 2030 of about 60,000. This shortfall could mean that Malaysia would lack talent in its workforce, and could push some companies to relocate elsewhere like Singapore, where talent is more readily available. But anyway, do let us know what you think. Thanks for watching.